Hey folks, Quilly18 here. So you've just finished Baldur's Gate 3, and maybe you're asking, is it worth giving Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 a go? Spoiler alert, the answer is definitely yes. First, some history. BioWare released Baldur's Gate 1 in 1998 and followed up with Baldur's Gate 2 in 2000. BG2 was a direct continuation of the same story with the ability to import your character from the first game. Both games, plus their expansions, are known collectively as the Ball Spawn Saga. Baldur's Gate 1 experience cap meant that you could reach around level 9 depending on your class. It's complicated because it's 2nd edition D&D. Baldur's Gate 2 featured more character building options and mechanics, as well as a level cap of around 20. Finally, there was the Throne of Ball expansion for Baldur's Gate 2 that let you access epic level endgame mechanics with a max level of around 40. In 2012 and 2013, the Enhanced Edition of Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 were released, bringing with them a slew of gameplay updates as well as support for modern resolutions and widescreen monitors. The Enhanced Edition also brought the game to Android, iOS, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, and PS4. Beamdog, the company responsible for the Enhanced Edition of Baldur's Gate, also released their own expansion called Siege of Dragonspear, which fits between Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2. It received generally good reviews, though it's not considered as strong as the original games. You can play it right after Baldur's Gate 1, or you can skip directly to Baldur's Gate 2, as you prefer. Note, there was also a game series called Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance. This is a very different franchise, and it's more of a Diablo-style hack-and-slash game. I actually think they're quite fun, but it doesn't really apply to this conversation. What made the Baldur's Gate series so great is that it was, in a very real sense, the first computer role-playing game that truly combined a fantastic story with lots of side quests, strong RPG mechanics, and the ability to assemble a party of companions with their own backstory, and eventually the opportunity for romance. All this felt very new and innovative at the time. It was hugely ambitious, but BioWare executed it fantastically, and then would go on to use it as the blueprint for their next big hit, Mass Effect. The similarities. There's actually a lot of overlap between BG3 and BG1. Sure, the older game is top-down isometric camera instead of being fully 3D, but navigating the world will feel pretty similar. Equipping items on the inventory screen works the same. Wizards are wizards and fighters are fighters. You beat up bad guys, you loot their stuff, you get XP, you level up. We all know how that works, right? The differences. The first major difference to address is the fact that the combat isn't turn-based. Instead, it's real-time with pausing. That means that unless you pause, usually by hitting the spacebar, the action keeps going. Internally, the game is still divided into rounds, and the characters are still actually waiting for their turn to roll their attacks and whatnot. Fighters will look like they're constantly swinging and dodging, but really they're just rolling their d20 once every 6 seconds, or multiple times as they level up and gain more attacks per round. Most people, myself included, do pause extensively to issue orders. You can and should enable the auto-pause features in the game. Firstly, making the game pause when you spot an enemy or a trap is a no-brainer. You could also have the game auto-pause at the start of each round, making it feel more like a turn-based game. Personally though, I just have it pause after I cast a spell, because it's only really spellcasters that I feel need to be micromanaged. My fighter can just keep hacking away at the bad guys on autopilot, using the built-in AI even if you want. The second major difference has nothing to do with the game engine, but instead is all about the tabletop rule set used by the game. Baldur's Gate 3 implemented the 5th edition version of Dungeons & Dragons. Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, on the other hand, are based on the 2nd edition of D&D, a system that may look similar at a glance, but is actually shockingly different. 5th edition D&D it's clean, it's intuitive, it's balanced, but maybe a little bit too sanitized. 2nd edition D&D is, well, it's quirky, it's arcane, but it's a heck of a lot of fun. For example, consider ability scores. In 5th edition, your ability scores simply give you +1 to your rolls for every other point in the stat above 10, right? So a 12 strength is +1 to hit, a 14 strength is +2 to hit, and so on. Easy. In 2nd edition, well, you need to look at this chart. The mere existence of an entry for a strength of 18/76 should raise some eyebrows. That being said, the normal rules apply. Bigger numbers are better. Well, except when you want a smaller number, like for your armor class, where smaller is better. In fact, you'd love a negative armor class? I know, that's weird, but it's pretty easy to understand once you get used to it. Multiclassing works very differently in 2nd edition. Basically, non-humans can multiclass right from character creation, and they level up all of their classes at the same time, automatically dividing their experience points between their 2 or even 3 classes as they adventure. Multiclassing's actually fairly simple and straightforward, and even a first-time player could handle it. Alternatively, pure humans can instead dual class at some point later in their adventuring career. It's a powerful trick, but it's kind of complicated to explain and not what I'd recommend for a first-time player because it can go really badly if you don't plan things out properly. There's no option to respec your character in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, though there are third-party tools to edit your save files if you're really unhappy about a choice. The strategy. In Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, you can have up to 6 characters in your party, as opposed to 4, so it's a lot easier to have a little of everything. There are a large number of recruitable companions to meet in the game, both very good and very evil. No matter what character you make for your personal hero, you'll be able to assemble a balanced party along the way. You should know that wizards can feel quite weak at the start of the first game. One big issue is that there are no cantrips, and you start with very few spell slots, which means you're probably going to be required to use a sling or something similar for quite a long time to be useful. On the other hand, spellcasters absolutely dominate by the end of Baldur's Gate 1, and then in Baldur's Gate 2, they basically turn into gods. Archers do exceptionally well in the first game because bows, but not crossbows, have 2 attacks per round as a base, meaning you can output a lot more damage right from level 1. This becomes less important in the second game as melee fighter types start to get more and more attacks per round, and spellcasters become more powerful in general. You probably want a thief-type character in your party to detect and disarm traps, many of which will one-shot kill your characters. And I do mean kill, by the way. In Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, you will die. A lot. There is no death saving throw system. Reaching 0 hit points means that a character is dead. You have to drag them to a temple to resurrect them, and that's assuming they haven't taken such massive damage their corpses explode into chunks. In practice, you'll probably just be making heavy use of quick save and quick loads. The hotkeys for that are Q and L, by the way. Learn it, love it, abuse the heck out of it. You're gonna need it. In conclusion, I think it's extremely easy to recommend that anyone who enjoyed Baldur's Gate 3 should go back and play the original games. It won't take very long before you get used to the art style and find tremendous beauty in the handcrafted environments and grow to love or hate Imwin like we have. Hey! The character creation system and rule set that might seem a bit weird at the start of the game will absolutely grow to be intuitive and, most importantly, fun as you learn the game. It also helps that at this point there are nearly endless sources of help guides and walkthroughs online in case you get lost somewhere. So find a copy of the game online, it's available in tons of places and often comes on sale. Spend way too long rolling and re-rolling your ability scores, and, as always, remember to gather your party before venturing forth.